I'm
anyway.
not going to quarrel with you, Archie. It's maybe the fourth time in 22 years you've been to church with me, so I'm grateful for the half a sermon we sat through.
Jean Stapleton became a household name for playing Edith Bunker, the soft-spoken heart of All in the Family. As the endlessly patient wife to Archie Bunker, Edith absorbed his sharp edges, smoothed over the chaos, and somehow kept the family standing when everything around her felt like it might crack. Then, without warning, she was gone. In the Season 2 premiere, Archie Alone, viewers were told Edith had died suddenly from a stroke. No build-up, no goodbye, just absence. Over the years, rumors filled the silence. Creative disputes, network pressure, personal drama, theories stacked on top of theories, and none of them quite landed. Because the truth was far more specific, far more deliberate, and far more emotional than anyone realized at the time. So why was Edith Bunker really killed off? And what was happening behind the scenes that finally forced that decision? Let's get into all the details. Edith Bunker, the gentle heart that held All in the Family together. And Jean Stapleton didn't just play Edith Bunker, she inhabited her. Edith was written as kind, cheery, and deeply loving, but what made her unforgettable was how she existed quietly in a house full of noise. She wasn't politically loud. She wasn't confrontational. She wasn't trying to win arguments. Her role in the Bunker household was far more difficult than that. She held the family together when everything else threatened to pull it apart. As the soft-spoken matriarch of All in the Family, Edith absorbed Archie's sharp edges and emotional outbursts without ever losing her gentleness. Archie once described Edith's father as a man with no chin and a go-funny eye, a remark that summed up the kind of world Edith came from. She was a native of Scranton, Pennsylvania, born in January 1925, raised modestly and shaped by hardship long before viewers ever met her. Later, she moved to New York City, where she spent most of her life. In September 1980, she died in her sleep from a stroke at just 55 years old. The quietness of that ending mirrored the way Edith often existed on screen, present, vital, and then suddenly gone. Her early life carried details that felt ordinary on the surface, but quietly informed everything she became. She attended Millard Fillmore High School and graduated in 1943. The school held only one reunion, the 30th, in 1973, and Edith showed up. That mattered. She remembered where she came from. Somewhere along the way, she met Archie at the Puritan Maid Ice Cream Parlor, a small, unremarkable place that became the starting point of a marriage that would define television history. In Archie Goes Too Far, Edith reads from her diary and reveals she received letters from Archie in May 1943 while he was overseas serving in the Army Air Corps. Long before the shouting and insults, there was distance, waiting, and devotion. Edith didn't arrive on screen fully formed. Between the first and second seasons, the character shifted in subtle but important ways. In the earliest episodes, she was the classic put-upon wife, quietly bemoaning her husband's behavior, never raising her voice but never entirely hiding her hurt. During that first season, Jean Stapleton spoke more in her natural vocal range, still accented, but not yet in the nasal, high-pitched voice that would later define Edith. By the second season, the transformation was complete. Edith became the version viewers remember best, kinder, more open, utterly non-judgmental, fully devoted to Archie even when he didn't deserve it. Her backstory unfolded in fragments, slipped into conversation when no one expected it. In writing The President, Edith mentions that before marrying Archie in 1946, she got a job working for the Hercules Plumbing Company. By the second season, Archie's name had softened into Archie, a small change that somehow said everything about how she saw him. Later episodes revealed deeper scars. In The Battle of the Month and Gloria Sings the Blues, Edith explains that her parents nearly divorced after a vicious fight. They stayed together, but something broke, and it never healed. That experience shaped Edith's views on marriage, conflict, and dignity. She believed fights left marks, even when people pretended otherwise. In Archie the Gambler, Edith reveals another painful truth. Her father was addicted to gambling and nearly destroyed the family. That history explains why, when Archie developed his own gambling problem, Edith finally put her foot down, twice. And once she slapped him. It wasn't cruelty, it was survival. Although All in the Family drew inspiration from the British series Till Death Us Do Part, Edith quickly became something very different from her British counterpart, Elsa Garnett. By the second season, Edith stood apart as the show's moral center. She was the voice of reason, the quiet rock of understanding, offering perspectives no one else could see. She was far less bigoted than Archie and formed genuine friendships with people he'd dismissed or antagonized, including their black neighbor, Louise Jefferson. Edith's loyalty to Archie never meant blindness. Her innocence didn't mean ignorance. Edith could be naive, yes, but she was also strangely precise in her thinking. She once told Gloria she supported capital punishment as long as it isn't too severe, a line that perfectly captured Edith's ability to hold conflicting ideas without malice. In Cousin Liz, when the family learns that Edith's cousin Liz was a lesbian and that her roommate Veronica had actually been her life partner, Edith is initially stunned. Then she does something no one else manages. She embraces Veronica and warmly accepts her as Liz's true next of kin, even gifting her the tea set Liz's spouse would legally have inherited. Edith didn't just accept people, she claimed them. That open-heartedness defined her friendships. She adored Louise Jefferson. She welcomed drag queen Beverly LaSalle into her life without hesitation, even as Archie bristled with discomfort. She also supported Jimmy Carter, a quiet but telling contrast to Archie's hardline conservatism. Edith's sweetness wasn't weakness. It was a choice, and every so often that sweetness cracked. In one of the show's most memorable moments, Edith snaps. She tells Archie to stifle over and over, turning his favorite weapon back on him. She shouts for the family to leave her alone, damn it, a word Edith almost never used. After a doctor's visit, Gloria explains that Edith is going through menopause, and Archie responds with his usual cruelty, demanding she change within 30 seconds. Edith's pain in that moment isn't played for laughs. It lingers. She even wonders aloud if men go through women pause, a line that lands softly but carries weight. Edith was always trying to understand others, even when no one tried to understand her. When the series began in 1971, Edith was a homemaker. By 1974, she took a part-time job as a caretaker at the Sunshine Home. Later, she became involved in Archie's tavern, Archie's Place. Though she wasn't a legal partner, she still carried her share of the emotional labor. In 1979, Edith lost her job after allowing a terminally ill woman to die without alerting staff. It wasn't negligence. It was compassion colliding with policy. In Archie Bunker's place, she finds similar work at a mental health facility, continuing to care for people society often overlooked. Edith's shrill voice, her flighty demeanor, and her trademark "oh-ay-oh-chee" made her iconic. Archie called her dingbat, but beneath the insults was real love. When Archie was distressed, he turned to Edith. In Archie and the KKK, it's Edith he asked for guidance. More than once, she stopped him cold when he invoked God to justify his prejudice. In Cousin Liz in California, Here We Are, Edith reminds Archie that judgment belongs to God, not him. Archie's father once described Edith as too smart for him. Edith wasn't academically sharp, but she understood people. She understood fear. She understood damage. Around the house, she moved quickly, eager to please, smoothing over tension before it could erupt, and she suffered. Edith went through menopause. She discovered a breast lump. She was nearly ERDE on her 50th birthday. She lost her voice. She developed phlebitis. Pain followed her quietly, just like everything else. Then, in Archie alone, Edith is gone. No build-up, no farewell, just the weight of absence, a stroke. And suddenly the heart of the Bunker home stops beating. Edith was the calm center because the show itself was built to be anything but calm. When America wasn't ready for the Bunkers, Norman Lear knew exactly what kind of fire he was playing with when he brought All in the Family to television. From the very beginning, he was warned, not gently either. He was told that Americans would revolt. And not just any Americans, but white, straight, conservative households who weren't interested in seeing their beliefs questioned on a sitcom, let alone exposed under bright studio lights. The fear wasn't subtle. This was a show that talked openly about race, religion, power. It refused to sugarcoat America's long habit of dressing bigotry up as tradition or faith. Worse, it dared to suggest that families didn't magically become polite and progressive once the front door closed. Looking back, Lear's skeptics weren't pulling their doubts out of thin air. Despite being loosely based on the British series Till Death Us Do Part, there was nothing on American television that truly resembled All in the Family when it premiered on CBS in 1971. Sitcom fathers at the time were safe, gentle, community-minded, men like Andy Taylor from The Andy Griffith Show. They didn't spit slurs, hide behind religion, or weaponize nostalgia. Archie Bunker did all three, loudly, unapologetically, and often in the same sentence. Played by Carroll O'Connor, Archie wasn't designed to be likable. He was designed to be recognizable. And it wasn't just Archie. American sitcoms also didn't show parents and grown children tearing into each other like they had nothing left to lose. They didn't show toilets being flushed. They didn't openly allude to it was buried under layers of polite euphemism. All in the Family ignored those rules from the jump. The show made that clear in its very first episode, Meet the Bunkers. Archie and Edith come home early from church and walk straight into something they were never meant to see. Their daughter Gloria and her husband Mike, better known as the Meathead, are mid-moment. No fade-out, no clever cutaway, just awkward reality. Gloria was played by Sally Struthers and Mike by Rob Reiner. Ironically, it wasn't the sex itself that caused the first major clash between Lear and CBS. It was a single line. Archie's reaction. He looks at the clock and says, 11:30 on a Sunday morning? That was it. That was the problem. The network wanted the line gone. Not because it was obscene, but because it forced the audience to picture the moment too clearly. Time, context, reality. Lear later explained that CBS feared what that image would plant in viewers' minds. Lear refused to budge. He later recalled telling the network that if the line was cut, he wouldn't be back the next day. It was his first standoff with CBS, and he knew exactly what it meant. If he caved on something that small, the show would be chipped away episode by episode. When the episode finally aired in New York, 3 hours ahead of California, a family member called to confirm the line was still there. Lear had won the first battle. It wouldn't be the last. Over its run, All in the Family bulldozed through subjects most sitcoms pretended didn't exist. Sexual assault, menopause, infidelity, homophobia, racism in all its casual and violent forms, the Vietnam War, Watergate, political corruption. Even Richard Nixon found himself dragged into the show's orbit more than once, never kindly and never accidentally. And yet audiences stayed. They didn't just tolerate it, they leaned in. The laughs mattered, but so did the silence that followed certain scenes. Emotional moments landed just as hard as punchlines, sometimes harder. The live studio audience didn't just laugh, they reacted, audibly, honestly. Because what they were watching didn't feel manufactured, it felt familiar. In the end, Lear was right. Not because America was ready, but because it wasn't. And All in the Family forced the conversation anyway. The show that changed TV and nearly lost its star, see. The American sitcom has been around almost as long as television itself, but only a handful ever break out of their time and refuse to age. Most fade into reruns and nostalgia. A rare few stay sharp, relevant, and uncomfortable. All in the Family was one of those rare few. And it didn't just stand out, it disrupted everything around it. At its core, the series followed a very ordinary American family grappling with social change, political upheaval, and personal conflicts, each from wildly different points of view. Jean Stapleton anchored the chaos as Edith Bunker, the gentle, open-hearted matriarch. Sally Struthers played Gloria, her idealistic, outspoken daughter. Rob Reiner rounded out the younger generation as Mike Stivic, the self-righteous, semi-hippie son-in-law. And looming over everyone was Carroll O'Connor as Archie Bunker, a loud, stubborn, deeply prejudiced man who somehow became one of the most important characters in television history. Week after week, Archie clashed with his family over race, religion, politics, gender, war, and morality. The arguments were raw, the language was blunt, but no matter how ugly things got, the family always came back together, bruised, annoyed, and still talking. Over time, Archie even showed signs of growth, however slow and begrudging. Against all odds, he became beloved, not because people agreed with him, but because he forced them to confront parts of themselves they'd rather ignore. Which is why there's a strange chapter in the show's history that feels almost impossible in hindsight. A stretch of episodes where Archie Bunker simply isn't there. No yelling, no chair, no presence. What viewers didn't know was that a behind-the-scenes battle nearly erased the character entirely. Despite the show's eventual success, CBS was never fully comfortable with what All in the Family represented. From the start, executives feared backlash. The pilot didn't even air without a disclaimer. The network felt compelled to warn audiences that what they were about to see was different. The opening crawl explained that the show aimed to throw a humorous spotlight on prejudice and human flaws, hoping laughter would expose how absurd they truly were. It was reassurance disguised as caution. Even with that safety net in place, nerves remained high. During production of the first 13 episodes, Norman Lear received a memo from CBS listing words, phrases, and entire subjects the network's Standards and Practices Department wanted softened or removed. Lear ignored many of them, and instead of outrage, something unexpected happened. Viewers tuned in massive numbers. The show became a ratings juggernaut. Critics later observed that it achieved something few programs ever manage. It bridged a generational divide. Younger viewers saw their frustrations reflected through Mike and Gloria. Older viewers recognized themselves, often uncomfortably, in Archie. His backward views and abrasive language weren't accidental. They were the point. Archie Bunker was the engine of the show. Every argument revolved around him. Every lesson bounced off him. And that kind of centrality came at a cost. By 1974, the success most actors dream of had become a source of strain for Carroll O'Connor. Behind the scenes, Archie Bunker no longer felt like a role. He felt like a trap. According to archived reporting from the Sarasota Herald-Tribune, O'Connor went on a personal strike in July of that year, privately telling friends he doubted he would return. The issue wasn't fame. He valued the audience. He valued the work. But conditions on set had soured, and frustrations had piled up. Around the same time, O'Connor filed a lawsuit against Tandem Productions, claiming the company owed him $64,000. He also pushed for changes to his schedule, requesting 12 weeks of vacation within the show's 24-week production cycle. For a series built so heavily around one character, the timing couldn't have been worse. With their star refusing to work, Lear and the producers faced a choice: shut down production or move forward without Archie. They chose the riskier option. Scripts were rewritten, storylines adjusted, and 3 episodes were produced with Archie completely absent. That absence was written directly into the narrative, beginning with Season 5's 8th episode, Where's Archie? Archie vanishes while traveling, no calls, no explanation. Edith, Gloria, and Mike are left confused, then worried as days pass with no word. For the first time, the show asked a dangerous question. What happens to All in the Family when the loudest voice in the room disappears? Behind the scenes, Lear wasn't sure O'Connor would ever return. After the actor openly shared his doubts about continuing, Lear began preparing for the unthinkable. He made his position clear and quietly developed a contingency plan, a replacement. James Cromwell had recently debuted as Stretch Cunningham, a friend of Archie's, and Lear envisioned a future where Stretch would move into the Bunker home after Archie was killed off in an accident. The message landed. O'Connor returned to the series. Ironically, it was Stretch Cunningham who didn't survive. 2 seasons later, Cromwell's character was written out and killed, allegedly at O'Connor's request. Cromwell later said he had been getting too many laughs for O'Connor's liking. Still, he admitted the outcome may have saved him from a different kind of trap, one where an actor becomes inseparable from a single role. In the end, All in the Family endured. It remains one of the most successful sitcoms ever produced, due in no small part to O'Connor's work as Archie Bunker. Though frustration and legal battles nearly erased the character, O'Connor ultimately settled his differences with Lear and the production company. He would go on to play Archie for 9 seasons on All in the Family and 4 more in Archie Bunker's place. The show survived. The character survived. But for a brief moment, everything hung in the balance. But survival didn't mean stability for everyone else inside that house. The real reason Sally Struthers left the show, D.E. For 7 seasons, Sally Struthers lived inside the role of Gloria Stivic, the sharp-tongued, idealistic daughter of Archie and Edith Bunker on All in the Family. The role made her famous almost overnight, but fame, as it turned out, came with walls. By the late 1970s, those walls were closing in, and Struthers knew she couldn't stay forever. By 1978, she wasn't hiding her restlessness. She admitted she was itching to leave, fueled by youth, energy, and the belief that her career was only just beginning. She genuinely thought the world was wide open. Friends encouraged her to stretch herself, to step away from the safety of a hit sitcom and prove she had range. Hollywood, she assumed, would be waiting. It wasn't. Leaving the show didn't feel like stepping forward. It felt like starting over. Suddenly, she wasn't a household name anymore. She was treated like a newcomer, someone who had to earn her place from scratch. The shift was jarring. She later reflected that it was hard to swallow, realizing that while she thought she'd made it, people around Beverly Hills were already asking whatever happened to her. Success, she learned, didn't guarantee security. It just changed the pressure. Some of that frustration traced back to how Gloria was written. Over time, the character became smaller. In later interviews, Struthers laid it out plainly. Week after week, Gloria's dialogue barely changed, helping set the table, asking where Michael was going, telling Archie to stop it. The same lines shuffled around like furniture in a room that never changed. And when the writers didn't know what to do with her, Gloria was sent upstairs. To take a bath, to wash her hair, to disappear, it wore her down. Still, contracts don't bend easily. After season 5, Struthers tried to walk away. She pushed hard enough that it went to legal arbitration. She spent $40,000 fighting for her exit and lost. The ruling sent her back to the set whether she liked it or not. Ironically, those forced final years ended up being some of her favorites. Gloria finally had room to breathe. She and Michael had a baby. They moved into the Jeffersons' old house. The stories gave her weight again, purpose, conflict. For the first time in a while, Gloria mattered. When the end finally came, it was handled carefully. Gloria didn't just vanish. She moved across the street, then across the country, and eventually into her own short-lived spin-off, Gloria. It wasn't the breakout Struthers had hoped for, but it closed the chapter on her terms. She never found another role quite as massive as Gloria Stivic, but she never stopped working. Years later, she popped up as Babette Dell on Gilmore Girls, instantly memorable, instantly quotable, and embraced by an entirely new generation. On stage, she thrived, touring nationally in Annie as Miss Hannigan, a role that leaned into her sharp comedic instincts. She lent her voice to animated favorites like Dinosaurs and Tailspin, quietly building a career that didn't depend on one iconic part. Away from the spotlight, she carved out another identity altogether. For decades, she became widely known for her humanitarian work as a spokesperson for the Christian Children's Fund, later renamed Child Fund. It was a different kind of visibility, less glamorous, more lasting. Gloria may have been the role that defined her, but walking away from it taught Sally Struthers something far more uncomfortable. Being beloved doesn't mean being free, and wanting more always comes with a price. But long before Sally Struthers ever thought about leaving, there was someone else in that house who already understood the cost of staying too long. Someone who didn't fight her exit, who didn't fracture publicly, who simply knew when the story had reached its natural end. That person was Jean Stapleton. The actual reason Edith was K***ed off in All in the Family. one of television's most beloved marriages didn't end with a fade-out or a laugh. It ended in silence. Fans of All in the Family last saw the Bunker family on an emotional note that felt heavier than anything the show had done before. Archie Bunker, played by Carol O'Connor, was gearing up for St. Patrick's Day at his bar, Archie Bunker's place. In his usual fashion, he roped Edith into cooking a full holiday spread, corned beef and cabbage included. Edith agreed quietly. What she didn't tell him was that she was sick, diagnosed with phlebitis, ordered by her doctor to stay off her feet. She pushed through anyway, working until her body simply gave out. When Archie finally found out, he called her doctor, only to be accused of knowingly forcing his wife to work while ill. The accusation cut deeper than any insult Archie had ever hurled. And in that moment, something rare happened. He realized that for all his bluster, all his cruelty, all his blind spots, he had never wanted to hurt Edith. Not ever. The series finale aired on April 8, 1979, and it closed with a quiet, intimate conversation between Archie and Edith. No politics, no shouting, just honesty. Archie admitted what Edith truly meant to him. It felt like a full stop, a goodbye that was somehow both tender and unfinished. Behind the scenes, All in the Family was ending for practical reasons. Norman Lear was ready to move on. So was Gene Stapleton. CBS chose to end the original series after 9 seasons and continue with Archie alone in Archie Bunker's place. At first, it didn't seem like Edith was truly gone. Stapleton appeared in 5 episodes during the spin-off's first season, enough to reassure viewers that Edith still had a place in Archie's world. But those appearances were never meant to last. They were a transition, a soft landing before the blow. That blow came in a 2-part episode that opened season 2. Edith died, off camera, suddenly. The episode aired on November 2, 1980. No build-up, no warning, just absence. The story picked up with Archie already deep in mourning, though he refused to admit it. Viewers learned Edith had died of a stroke a month earlier. Archie brushed off an insurance agent trying to deliver a check. He ignored Edith's belongings around the house. He kept moving because stopping would mean feeling, and Archie Bunker had never known how to do that. The moment that finally broke him came after relatives cleared out Edith's things to donate to charity. Archie walked into the bedroom, bare now, quiet. He shut a drawer, sat on the bed, and then noticed something out of place. A single pink slipper, tucked just within his line of sight. He picked it up, and then he talked to her. He told Edith it wasn't supposed to happen this way, that he was supposed to go first, that all those jokes he made about her dying before him were never meant to be real. He confessed that on the morning she died, he was shaking her, yelling at her to get up and make his breakfast, never realizing what was happening, never knowing. He told her she had no right to leave him without giving him one more chance to say he loved her. And then Archie Bunker, the loudest man on television, collapsed into sobs. That's when Stephanie, the niece Archie and Edith had taken in, appeared in the doorway. Archie noticed her and said Edith was the one who was supposed to stay down here with her, not him, because he wasn't good at any of this. Not the caring, not the surviving. It was devastating. And it worked because it was honest. Edith's death echoed another ending. In the British series Till Death Us Do Part and its spin-off In Sickness and in Health, the character Elsie Garnett, Edith's counterpart, also died after actress Dandy Nichols passed away. But Edith's exit wasn't dictated by death. It was a creative choice, and a painful one. In a December 1981 interview, Stapleton explained that Edith's fate had been discussed at length before the final season. A divorce would have been dishonest. The Bunkers would never have divorced. Sending Edith away for a long visit would have kept her hovering over the series, making it impossible to expand Archie's life. Death, as harsh as it was the only truth that fit. She admitted the last person to agree was Lear. Edith meant too much to him. Stapleton recalled calling him and saying Edith was only fiction. The line landed wrong. There was silence on the phone. Then Lear responded quietly that to him she wasn't only fiction. Out of that grief came something lasting, Lear and Stapleton worked with CBS to establish the Edith Bunker Memorial Fund, securing a $500,000 donation to the National Organization for Women. Edith, in death, became a symbol, not just of kindness, but of feminism, dignity, and quiet strength. Stapleton later admitted that while she was proud of how everything unfolded, Edith's death helped her personally. The public had trouble separating her from the character. Letting Edith go helped people see that she was someone else now. She never spoke with regret. She called Edith a marvelous part of her career, said she wouldn't trade a minute of it, but she also said it had become a chore. An artist doesn't paint the same canvas forever. An actor doesn't play the same role for life. When Stapleton died in 2013, Lear wrote a tribute reflecting on the Memorial Fund and Edith's enduring power. Even in death, he said, Edith and Jean still had magic. And that was the truth. Edith Bunker didn't just leave a show. She left a mark that never faded. Who was your favorite character from All in the Family? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.